Hi and welcome to another episode of The Grind. My name is Violet Njeki, and today a new industry all in itself, the energy sector. We have never tackled the energy sector in full, so we do not understand what it is all about. And that is why today we are sitting with one of the proprietors of ISAC. I'm going to let her tell us what is ISAC, but first let's know her so that we can continue. Karibu sana.
Thank you very much.
Please introduce yourself and tell us what you do.
My name is Catherine Irura, and I'm the Secretary of the Electricity Sector Association of Kenya. We are an association that brings together actors in the energy sector in generation, transmission, even organizations in research, and people with a keen interest in the energy sector. I also work at Soitec Kenya as a Managing Director of Soitec Kenya. We are a company that develops solar and wind projects, and we're active in Kenya, Zambia, and Zimbabwe.
Ah,
yes.
Mama could branch all out.
Yes.
So even as we continue to understand about the energy sector, so is Kenya really where we're supposed to be at this point when it comes to the energy sector?
Yes, I believe we're in the right track. Most of our electricity is renewable. Almost 80% of our generation is renewable. But we have immense potential for growth.
Yes.
But this will be pegged also on our country's economic blueprint and plans for growth. We usually talk about Kenya Vision 2030 as our economic master plan for the country. And there are more opportunities for more electricity power generation from cleaner sources to fuel that industrial growth.
Mm.
Yes.
So most businesses in Kenya rely on electricity. And there was a time that they were saying in Turkana they've tapped oil. Now that is a source of energy as well. It is also in the electricity sector.
Yes.
At this point we are still not using it. Is it because we have failed? Is it that the government has failed in producing energy using this oil that we get?
I believe in terms of our electricity generation, most of it is from geothermal, solar and wind energy. Those are most of our sources of electricity in Kenya. And that's what we use to power our day-to-day energy needs at a household level, at an industry level. So the rest of our fuel, fossil fuel that we use in Kenya is imported. Yes, so those are our sources of energy basically in the country.
Okay. Now that you mentioned about Soitec, can you give us in simple terms what exactly does Soitec do and how does it come in helping even business people?
Okay. We are a renewable energy developer and we're developing solar and wind projects to enable Kenyans to have access to clean electricity. And also we ventured into this sector called green hydrogen. I'm not sure you've heard about it, but there's a way.
Let me just say I have not heard about the green hydrogen, yes.
Yes, but hydrogen is a key input for most industrial production processes. It's used to produce fertilizer, for example. It's used to produce clean fuel such as e-methanol. So most of our industrial processes use natural gas-based hydrogen. And now the world is moving towards the production of hydrogen through cleaner sources. Many countries in the world last year during COP26 committed to use green hydrogen as a base for their industries. So our company also ventured out to start working on green hydrogen projects, and that's basically what we do here in Kenya.
And what is the potential of Kenya or even Kenyans using this hydrogen? Do we have potential that as a business I can go for this as my use of energy, or let me just opt what I was using before?
I think the main opportunity for the use of hydrogen is through its derivatives. Like we import most of our fertilizer. And fertilizer prices have been going up because of the war that's happening between Russia and Ukraine. So you see the landing costs of the fertilizer by the time it reaches at the port in Mombasa and comes to these counties where farmers are based. It's been an issue, affordability and accessibility of this fertilizer, and you've seen even the new regime come into place have tried to come up with subsidies and ways to make fertilizer affordable.
Yes.
And it's possible to produce fertilizer in Kenya through green hydrogen.
Let's get your part.
It is possible. It's possible to produce this green fertilizer in the country. In fact, there are pilot projects. There was a study that was done in the previous year showing that we do have potential to produce fertilizer locally using this green hydrogen as an input. So there's a pilot project that is planned for green fertilizer in the country. And the president also talked about expanding partnerships in the region, in the EAC, recently in his speech on the 20th of October. So setting up domestic production of fertilizer, for example, will help us reduce our dependence on these countries and which we import from.
Yes.
Also has opportunity to create jobs for locals and us to get more new skills in the country, people trained in energy and in production of this fertilizer. And these are some of the things that COP27 hopes to look at: the technological transfer, the skills transfer, and how countries in the South, the global South, countries in Africa can benefit from financing and investments to grow cleaner generation of electricity, as well as some of these commodities which we use, like fertilizer.
Yeah. Yes. Now, before we even delve into the COP27, you've talked about hydrogen being a good option for what you're using right now. In Kenya, we only have one source. How do I call it? Kenya Power is monopoly. Sorry about that, monopoly. It's only one that everyone has to rely on Kenya Power. Is this something that should change, that we have other sectors also coming in to provide electricity and energy instead of us relying on one company?
Well, in the Energy Act 2019, it actually opens up space for private players to come in to start supplying electricity.
Yes.
There's even a regulation called the Captive Power Policy that has been developed for people to supply electricity directly to businesses. Yes. And in Kenya we have it's called CNI. We have a space where someone having a business can install solar power on their factory and generate part of their electricity use through solar and rely on KPLC at night for their power needs. Yes. So there is room, and we have seen even the new regime talking about the need for us to have more public-private partnerships, to have more actors come into the sector for generation. Yes. We
are going to take a short break, but when we come back, Catherine is going to tell us all about the COP27. 27 is 27 years, right?
Yes.
27 is 27 years. 27 years of this organization being in play, and we are going to understand what is it all about and what benefit does it have to the energy sector in Kenya. We're going to take a short break, but before that, let's have our quote of the day.
Conformity is the jailer of freedom and the enemy of growth. John F. Kennedy.
You are watching TV 47, The Home. How well do you know what's happening around you? Morning Cafe with heated political debates. Baraza la Siasa.
Hiyo kitu azungumzie, angalie hali ya maisha ya watu.
Informative health discussions. Business, farming. Tasty Wednesday, Fitness Thursday, and Feel Good Friday with amazing DJs, celebs,
waimbaji, kuna comedians, alafu kuna wajinga,
and music bands every Monday to Friday from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. How well do you know what's happening around you? Morning Cafe with heated political debates. Baraza la Siasa.
Hiyo kitu azungumzie, aangalie hali ya maisha ya watu.
Informative health discussions. Business, farming. Tasty Wednesday, Fitness Thursday, and Feel Good Friday with amazing DJs, celebs,
Waimbaji, kuna comedians, alafu kuna wajinga.
and music bands. Every Monday to
Joined by
Friday.
Catherine from ISAC, we are talking all about the energy sector here in Kenya. And you've had a talk about the COP27, but now we are going to understand what is COP27 and of what benefit does it have to the country. So Catherine, COP27, tell us about that.
COP basically stands for Conference of the Parties. It's a meeting for global leaders around the world who are part of this UN Climate Change Convention. And it brings these countries to discuss the climate change issues that we are facing and ways we can find to adapt and mitigate against climate change. So they come up with priority actions for all countries to deal with at a national level to tackle climate change.
Now, you as a member of ESAC as well, what is ESAC in full and what role are you playing this year in the COP27?
Okay, ESAC is the Electricity Sector Association of Kenya. As I explained before, we bring together actors in the energy sector, those in generation of electricity, those in transmission of electricity, and other people related to the sector, advocates, researchers, and persons with interest in the sector to tackle issues that are affecting the sector. And to realize the goals of COP27 in Kenya, for example, the country will come up with its own plans locally on how to implement it. Renewable electricity is one of the ways that will be a game changer for Kenya in tackling greenhouse gas emission reduction. Kenya hopes to reduce its greenhouse gas emissions by 30%, and clean power offers that opportunity because you're not really relying fully on fossil fuels for your electricity needs. So ESAC will be keenly following on these discussions and seeing ways in which our members could participate and contribute in the discussion, even innovative ways we could do studies that could be able to bring some input on the master plans we have in our country at a county level, national level for energy, and contributing to these discussions. Yeah.
So COP27 is basically, it's in the 27th meeting. From previous meetings, are there some of agreements that were made to help the Kenyan country when it comes to the energy sector for business people and even just someone who's regular person who is just at home? What are some of the agreements that were made in the last meeting that Kenya can benefit from?
Okay, in COP26, one of the commitments that was made was making power clean, accessible and affordable. The second one was on road transportation, having zero emission vehicles available and affordable for people to use. And the third one was on having climate resilient agriculture. I mean, you've seen in Kenya, we've really been hard hit by the drought and weather patterns being very unpredictable that farmers are not even able to plan for their farming. So when you look at power, when you look at agriculture, having zero emission transportation, and as well green hydrogen production was one of the commitments that was made then. And Kenya particularly committed to have cleaner power for use by all Kenyans and having road transportation decarbonized, having less emissions from road transportation. And you've already seen in the past days that Kenya has moved towards that. KPLC is working with actors in the e-mobility sector to have these zero emission buses available for use, and that's one of the ways you can reduce our greenhouse gas emissions. there's also potential for us to generate more renewable energy, electricity, and use it for industries. And this is where we see our green industrial revolution going, as opposed to previous years and how other economies in the developed world have grown.
Yes.
So we have an opportunity in Kenya and even countries around the region to use more renewable-based electricity, because we have actually the resources to generate more of our electricity from clean sources.
So Kenya has a very big part to play and also to benefit from this COP27.
Yes.
So when it comes to the renewable energy, for some people they think that, now let me give an example of a place like Lodwar or Turkana. It's very, very hot, and solar can work quite well in areas such as that. Why is it that Kenya as a government that we can't go and invest in renewable energy in areas like Turkana? Is it that there's a protocol to do this, or what is the progress?
Yes, we have policies in Kenya that guide how renewable energy investments are implemented in Kenya. And for smaller projects, we have what we call the feed-in tariff policy. This was a policy that even Lake Turkana Wind Power way back relied on to come. It had procedures laid down on how you can set up an investment in Kenya, how you apply to the Ministry of Energy and get approvals for the projects, the kind of contracts that are needed and infrastructure that is needed to implement the project. And full feasibility studies are done for these projects. The challenge we have had in our market is we had this Energy Act enacted in 2019, and subsequent to that, we enacted a renewable energy policy to guide now projects that are way bigger in scale, that don't apply under the feed-in tariff policy. So having that system implemented now is what we are waiting for, and this will actually be pegged on economic growth, because that's how our demand for electricity will grow. Otherwise, you're quite right. The northern part of Kenya has some of the best solar resources we have, and wind resources in the world as well.
Wow.
And it's possible to build plants in that area, improve on infrastructure also in that area, and open up those areas for industries to be set up. Yes.
So what are some of the challenges that we may face as Kenyans as we push forward to getting to the part that we are all about renewable energy? What are some of the challenges that we need to take care of before we get to where we need to be?
I think we need to think about economic growth. Economic growth will need energy as a base, as an input for production. For us to grow electricity generation in Kenya, we would need end users at the end, in industries who will use this electricity to produce goods, services that will be able to now feed into our economy. Economic growth then is one of the key areas we see having a key impact in new generation of electricity. Also, the previous regime started these last mile connectivity programs to ensure all Kenyans have access to electricity in rural areas. That's also one of the ways in which we can utilize new electricity generation, coming up with the transmission infrastructure to some of these very remote areas, and having Kenyans access this electricity in schools for learning, at home for household use, so that they can also have a better quality of life, be able to learn well and use electricity in their homes for other uses, even cooking. It is possible to use using electricity.
Yes.
So that growth in infrastructure and growth in the economy will have a key impact on new generation of electricity.
Yes.
We also have to look at where the finance for this new electricity generation will come from. I talked about transmission infrastructure being one of the key inputs. That requires investors to come into that space. It also requires government commitment as well for people who are looking to grow transmission infrastructure in the country.
Now, even as we talk about Kenya moving towards having renewable energy, even with that in mind, there's some gaps in the policy framework of the energy sector. What are some of these gaps?
Okay, some of these gaps, maybe first of all, to give an introduction, we do have a law in Kenya, the Energy Act 2019, that now oversees all investments in the energy sector. And under that, we have various policies and regulations that affect different sources of electricity, renewable electricity. So we need to have renewable energy auctions. Already we have a policy in place, but there is much room for improvement to be able to have auctions which will be able to help investors plan, and will be a way for the government to procure electricity in a cheaper way. So that work has been ongoing by the regulators, by the Ministry of Energy, and it will be a key. It will help a lot, giving regulatory clarity for people who are developing large-scale, utility-scale projects such as Soweto, for example. Apart from that, we need some guidance for captive power regulations in our sector. This will help. I talked about green hydrogen previously. Yeah, part of the electricity that's generated in green hydrogen production is for captive use. So we would need better clarity on that, because that's one of the pathways where more renewable electricity will be needed for hydrogen production, which will now go in the end up to fertilizer production and green fuels production. Yes, and apart from that, we'll need better transmission regulations to allow private sector players to participate. This has already been put in the Act, but there are some nitty-gritties that need to be ironed out in regulation on how that could be implemented in the country and how private sector players could participate.
Well, that is so informative what you've talked to us about here, Catherine. But before I let you go, I want you to tell us if someone wants to come for the COP27 event, is it open to everyone? And if you want to join, just to understand more about the energy sector, how do you do so?
COP27 is open mostly to nation states who are parties to the convention. Kenya, for example, have come up with their position paper on the key issues that they need addressed in the convention. So the government will be sending a delegation there, but it's also possible to participate, to watch the proceedings. I think it's possible to access the proceedings online individually, and also companies are going to be joining some of the sessions under COP27. Private companies are sending delegations out to Egypt for the event. Yes.
Oh, thank you so much, Catherine, for your time and informing us quite a lot that we didn't know about the energy sector.
Thank you very much for having me.
Well, guys, we've learned a lot about the energy sector. This is an industry, remember, we've not tackled any other time before. And I'm quite grateful for Catherine to answering some of the questions that I had for her, which I know you are also asking. Now you know why your token is Zinapanda, but it's Zinapanda. Well, guys, until next time when you go to another business, another entrepreneur, my name is Violet Njoki. See you then.